Sri Lanka's president says choosing his nation over his brother was the most difficult decision of his life. Gotabaya Rajapaksa says he asked Mahinda to resign as the country's prime minister, a decision he took thinking about the future of the nation. Last month, Mahinda Rajapaksa resigned following weeks of anti-government protests. The senior Rajapaksa had initially resisted calls from the opposition to step down. But now it seems the public pressure has forced his hand. Remember, Mahinda is President Gotabaya's eldest brother. Mahinda himself served as the president of Sri Lanka from 2005 to 2015. Together, the Rajapaksa clan has been accused of creating the economic crisis in Sri Lanka. Currently, Ranil Wickremesinghe is serving as the prime minister of the country. But the crisis in the island nation shows no sign of abating. Last week, thousands of Sri Lankans flooded the streets. They demanded the resignation of both president and his new prime minister. The cash-strapped nation has now announced steep across-the-board tax hikes, a measure to shore up revenue in the country. This is a rollback of the tax cuts made by the president when he won the 2019 elections. The South Asian nation is currently in talks with the International Monetary Fund, or IMF, for a bailout. Sri Lanka is currently reeling under its worst economic crisis since independence. The country has suffered months of blackouts and dire shortages of food and fuel. This has triggered massive anti-government protests across the country. And for more on that, WION correspondent Dasunia Thauda has sent us this report from Colombo.
Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa made an interesting remark while speaking to his party parliamentarians by saying that the hardest decision he ever had to make during his tenure as president was to request for his own brother, Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa, to resign at that time. Now, all of this comes at a very interesting time, given that the Sri Lankan judiciary overruled the executive in a very unprecedented move to set aside a presidential pardon. A former parliamentarian, Duminda Silva, who was initially sentenced to death row here in Sri Lanka, which also means that the former parliamentarian is now awaiting an impending arrest here in the country. These are all parts of Sri Lanka's worsening political and economic crisis, with much discussion still underway on the proposed 21st Amendment, which will also look at abolishing the executive presidency. Stay with WION World is One as we bring you the very latest. Reporting from Colombo, I'm Dasunia Thauda.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.